I think I may be going insane here. I have been thinking. I have been thinking and thinking, and thinking some more on my thinking. Thinking that my thinking methods may need to change. This is going to be yet another difficult investigation to do, and probably not gonna come up with much by the end of it, but who knows. For now, we shall go at it with baby steps. I'm gonna talk about the thing that I feel the most confident about in regards to everything, and that is Burns' advice on looking for the conditions required to win at Beatrice's game. What is it that we know for sure? That Beatrice told us to solve the epitaph. Well, nothing too special there. I mean, there needs to be some risk so that Beatrice's resurrection would succeed. What is interesting, however, is that Maria was trying to solve the epitaph as well, despite her wanting to reach the Golden Land. Beatrice told her to try and do that. And, well, with that being said, it also reminds me of something that I didn't really focus on so much back when I was looking at the events of the first game. And that something is the notebook fragment found inside the bottle after the events of the first game. The notebook fragment detailed what happened on Okenjima, and it would seem that it was all written by Maria. By the time you have read this, I will probably be dead, although there may or may not be a corpse. You who have read this, please find out the truth. That's my only wish. Why would Maria write this if all she cared about was reaching the Golden Land, where everyone was happy? It may be that Beatrice told Maria some things that we're still not aware of even to this point. Like, there is no doubt that what Maria wrote in that notebook fragment is a result of something that Beatrice told her alongside the promises that she keeps, like solving the epitaph, putting an end to the ritual, and stuff like that. Combine that with Battler's role in all this, it really makes me wonder what kind of plan Beatrice has in store for him. Despite how cruel Beatrice has been all this time, she did push Battler to fight back with Red Truce, and how ecstatic she was when Battler came back once more during the second tea party. Why go through all this process of making Battler play these chessboard games, when she could have just ended at the first game and go on to continue her witchy stuff like somewhere else? I've come to the conclusion that Battler is a very important piece to Beatrice, more than I thought of before. She is more likely trying to empower Battler through these chess games, like she's trying to make him do the epitaph eventually. In that sense, I think that Beatrice is testing us. She's testing Battler with these murder mysteries. So, yeah. I'm confident in saying that we need Battler to solve the epitaph. However, there are still mysteries left to Beatrice's true motivations, which yet again tie her to her mysterious past, which may have some tragedy in it connecting to Kenzo. Like, that is something that we still need to find out. However, that is pretty much the one thing I feel more confident in than any other theory they might come up with. Cause when it comes to the murders of the second game, oh boy, what a fuckfest. Before I even go ahead and try to tackle this, I do have to say that I have come up with 3 possibilities as to what the hell happened in the second game. Number 1, I think I may be going insane. Number 2, I'm being fucked with and being tested. And number 3, I'm being tested. As I mentioned before, I do believe that Beatrice is testing Battler, trying to age him like fine wine. I'm saying this because despite me seeing the actual murders with my very own non-existent eyes, with magic being involved on top of it, Battler on the other hand is being tested by Beatrice to solve these murders in human ways, without him seeing the actual events that occurred. When Kanon fought the goat men and stakes, when fake Kanon fought and killed Kumasawa and Nanjo, and when all hell broke loose on Goda, Shannon, and George, with all 3 of them dying in Natsui's room. Like, all of this happened, and it got me questioning over and over Why am I trying to think of possibilities of humans doing the murder in human ways when I saw myself the murders that happen in magical ways? But for the sake of conversation, and maybe of the thought that Beatrice is testing our intelligence, we went along and discussed the possibilities and used red truths. But it was when Battler, Rosa, and Maria discovered the bodies in Natsu's room that something was not right. The wounds on Shannon and George's bodies suggest that they only got hit with the stakes. How? Beatrice was in a total rage at that point. Like, once the shield was gone, the only thing left was for Beatrice to destroy both Shannon and George here, while they were both holding each other, and then call the stakes afterwards to hit them after, but this suggests that only the stakes were involved. Not only that, but we found the key to Natsu's room inside George's pocket. Well, last time I checked, it was in Shannon's hand when she checked Natsu's body in the chapel. How did the key end up in George's pocket? And if someone moved it from Shannon to George after their deaths, for what purpose? Like, no matter whose body the key was found in, it didn't really change a thing. And now going back to the previous murders, why did Kumasawa and Nanjo's bodies get moved outside the mansion, instead of just leaving them inside the servant room where they died? Granted, it was Rosa who said that if we are to find Nanjo and Kumasawa's bodies, maybe she would have listened to the rest of the servant stories and see them as innocent. However, I feel like even if their bodies were left in the servant room as they were, that whole scene with Rosa suspecting the servants still would have happened in my eyes. But I'm not confident in that one. Maybe moving the bodies truly was essential to that whole drama escalating to the nth degree with Rosa and all that. So, nonetheless, something about this is off. Not to mention the red paint / blood on the door to Natsu's room. Why was something like that there, when there really shouldn't? There should be like cracks in the door from all the banging that the goats did. Like, this reminds me of the red paint that was found on Natsu's doorknob in the first game when she was supposed to be one of the first 6 to die, but wasn't because Natsu had the scorpion charm. Again, why am I put in a position to question the events of the murder when I see them with my own eyes? Well, I mentioned those 3 possibilities from before. And this is the part where I really have to start questioning what the hell is going on with this entire thing. Am I going insane, and that some of the things I saw were not real? Either the events of the first game have become so traumatizing that I start seeing goat men and lightsaber fights where they shouldn't. Or Beatrice is fucking with me by making me see these weird visions of events that didn't quite happen the way they actually happened, and I'm being tested to see if I start noticing this. If it's neither of these, then these events truly happened the way I think they did, and I'm being tested to see where my mind can go with the locked rooms. I mean, where the hell am I even going with this? At first, when I even entertained that thought the first time it popped into my head, I was like, nah, there's no way that could happen. Yeah, I mean, this thought can help me in saying that, hey, if you want me to think that magic is not involved like at all, well boom, there you go. All of that was in my fucking head, and I must have taken cocaine or pot or whatever kids are into these days. Not to mention that this is backed up by something that Lambda Delta out of all people told me. Beatrice is cocky and emotion driven at times. So when she's at her cockiest or is ruled by strong emotions, that will be her weak point. And when you know it, it truly is when Beatrice got angry at Shannon that I start to suspect that something is fishy about how their bodies got discovered. And then I start thinking about this crazy possibility. But okay, you know what? When I think about it a little bit, maybe I'm overreacting. I mean, after all, how can a story do such a thing to its reader? Cause this to me is unheard of. If something like this is truly happening and that some of the things that I see with my own eyes end up being not true, then what am I supposed to believe in anymore? I wouldn't be able to believe in anything anymore. And that is something that I refuse to accept. Like, there would have to be some rules in that case. Also, let me think of it this way. Let's say that I'm not going complete bonkers, and that maybe some of these events were just fake visions. If it's true that Beatrice can do that, then why not use her power to have these moments actually happen instead? Or, if I am to think of such possibilities, just because some events might have not happened the way I see them, it doesn't necessarily exclude the possibility of magic being involved in these. Hell, maybe they were 95% perfectly legit, and Beatrice decided to tweak my brain just a little bit to confuse me. Maybe it is during the murder of Shannon and George, when Beatrice was filled with rage, that she did an oopsie poopsie, and only then she decided to change my vision to confuse me, while the rest of the murders were completely legit. And to top it all off, Baron Castell did say to not deny any possibility. And since we're talking about magic, anything is freaking possible, including the possibility of me seeing things that aren't actually true. I mean, it would be a cruel possibility. It would fit Beatrice. I mean, if even Baron Castell is telling me how cruel Beatrice's game is, despite the fact that Baron Castell is a witch herself and is probably one of the cruelest witches from what I've heard, then for her to say that even these tricks that Beatrice is pulling on me are so cruel, then yeah, I could totally believe that something like that would be cruel. I mean, so whatever. No matter what the case is, I have to pretend that these magical events did not happen. And Beatrice is asking me and Battler to solve the locker room murders in human tactics. So, fine. Let me see what I can muster out of all of this. First, we have the red truths, which I have them here all listed. Second, I'm gonna reverse engineer the cases a little. I'm gonna start with Shannon, George, and Goda's murders first. We know that those that have died thus far are the following: Natsuhi, Kraus, Rudolph, Kirie, Eva, Hideyoshi, Kanon, Jessica, Kumasawa, and Nanjo. Those that are left are Goda, Shannon, George, Kinzo, Genji, Battler, Maria, and Rosa. And Beatrice too, but we shall focus on the humans for now. So let's pretend that the whole magic murder didn't happen. Let's start with Genji. As far as we know, he was walking in the mansion by himself doing whatever, while George, Shannon, and Goda went after Natsuhi's key inside the chapel. Could he be the killer? I mean, it's possible. Genji could kill the three of them inside the chapel or anywhere else. However, could he be capable of putting the bodies inside Natsuhi's room and close the door behind him? Well, I mean, if we are to follow the red truths for Natsuhi's room, I'd say it is not possible. What with the information that we have. Why? Because Rosa had all the master keys on her, inside the parlor, all locked up with Battler and Maria. And before I continue with my line of thought over here, I would like to also address this, which I think I've noticed this before, and now I am remembering this, but in Beatrice's last red truth, Rosa's name over here is in quotations for some reason, and I cannot explain why. Why is her naming quotations like that, when the other people's names are written just fine? That's something I'm still gonna have to think about, to be quite honest. So the only key that Genji could have used was Natsuhi's key. However, the key was found inside George's pocket, inside the already locked room. With that being said, without Genji having the master key, it is impossible to lock the room and leave Natsuhi's key behind, inside George's pocket. Would Genji have a motive for killing them? I think I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, so let's move on. What about Kinzo? Well, I doubt that he had a master key, so the discussion that I had for Genji also applies here. Not to mention that Kinzo would have no motive for doing so, when he could just sit inside his study room protected from any danger. So, let's move on. Battler is out of the question. Like, he was inside the parlor, and and couldn't get out unless he took a master key from Rosa, and surely she would have noticed that Beller tried to do that. We do know this little detail, though, that when Genji knocked on the parlor door back in Season 2 Episode 25, Rosa fell into a doze shortly before that, but she was still guarding the door despite that. However, we know that Beller took a nap there. Don't know for how long, but if we are to go with the idea that Beller took a nap for a while, and maybe even Maria, then it is possible for Rosa to have left the parlor with her master key, murder Shannon, George, and Goda wherever they are, have the bodies placed inside Natsu's room the way we found them, and then lock the room with the master key and come back to the parlor and act as if she did not go anywhere. I mean, it can work. However, that will be a huge risk since Beller could have just woken up at any point and noticed that Rosa disappeared, because it will surely take a while to murder 3 people and place their bodies inside Natsu's room. Or even if the 3 of them were in Natsu's room and Rosa decided to murder them, it will still take some time. Therefore, when the bodies were to be discovered, Beller might have suspected Rosa maybe. That, and we have to take into account Maria. Like, if this possibility happened, Maria did not mention a single thing about it. In fact, when we were having that big fight inside the parlor, Maria yelled and said that it was all the witch's fault, not Rosa's, whether we were talking about the letter or the murders. So let's think of it this way. Goda, Shannon, and George took Natsu's key and went inside her room, found the mirror, and suddenly one of them decides to kill the others. Maybe Goda decided to kill Shannon and George, but then it would imply that he would have a knife on him or something. He stabs Shannon and George and then kills himself? Unless he himself got stabbed with his own knife in a scuffle, and when George and Shannon finally died, so did Goda. And same thing would happen if the roles were switched, if either Shannon is the killer or George is the killer. But what would be the motive for any of them? Goda wanting money? Maybe? Other than that, I don't see like any other motive for any of them to have done the killing. Alright, well, let's move on to the next murder, that of Kumasawa and Nanja. They were both found outside the mansion. If we pretend that the whole fake Kanon battle did not happen, that would imply that Shannon, Genji, and George lied about the existence of Kanon, because we know with the red truths that, well, Kanon died in Jessica's room. So that would imply that Shannon, Genji, and Goda were in on it? I mean, it's a bit of an odd combo, if I do say so myself, since Goda is also involved in this. But at the same time, it is very much possible. I mean, after all, they're all servants. They worked with each other for a long time. They had spare master keys on them. And we know that all the servant keys were inside the box in the servant room. So, let's look at the red truths for the servant room and see what we got. Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. Alright. Let's go back to Jessica's room. I at least had some ideas there. We can go with the idea that Rosa had Jessica's key with her and could go in to kill Jessica and Kanon. And when everyone went in to notice the murder, Rosa can act as if she found Jessica's key, when in actuality she had it on her all the time. However, that would imply that Rosa managed to get Jessica's key somehow, which is hard to determine where and when. Like, unless we are to assume that at some point Rosa knocked on Jessica's door and Jessica let her in. What needs to be questioned, however, is the timing. The whole incident with Jessica and Kanon started at 6:43 when Jessica ran into Beatrice's VIP room, then back to her room, and then the incident happened. At 6:50, we see Kinzo in his study with Shannon and Genji, but more importantly, at that point, we see Rosa still in the chapel when Goda came to them and told them about Jessica's status before her murder. At 7:30, after the introduction to the Red Truths, Rosa and the rest returned from the chapel to the parlor. Shortly after, Rosa walked to Kinzo's study, and only then was she alone to do whatever she wanted, and that was after 7:30. long after 6:50 when Gora came to the chapel and told that Kano went to be alongside Jessica. So that would imply that Jessica stayed in her room more than 40 minutes before she got attacked by Beatrice, or whoever the killer would be. And I don't know, I mean, to me it looked like Jessica went straight to her room, Kanon came inside with her, talked a little bit, then Kanon exited the room. And after a short time, Beatrice or a human murderer came in to kill Jessica. That sounds to me like less than 40 minutes, so I cannot say for sure if this fits Rosa, to be quite honest. So if it's not Rosa who had used Jessica's key to lock the door, then that would mean that Jessica's key was there from the beginning. Meaning that we would have to take into consideration the master keys yet again. And that makes us go back to older theories we had. Was it Goda? Was it Kumasawa? Was it any of the other servants like Genji or Shannon, who were inside Kinzo's study possibly at the time? I mean, Shannon was busy writing Kinzo's will at the time, which I am still curious about, and we haven't even managed to read it. I mean, I hope to God that Kinzo will do the will again in the next chess games. Otherwise, I would consider that scene the biggest cock tease I've seen in a while. Like them talking about Kinzo's backstory with Beatrice, and I get to hear nothing. I want to note something over here. Back in Season 2, Episode 19, Bella requested that Beatrice repeat in red that the last time Jessica's room was locked was by a master key, and Beatrice denied to repeat that. We don't know if it's because it was true, or she's fucking with us. This is what made me theorize even more that maybe Jessica's key was used to lock the room, which led me to Rosa. But yet again, the problem is the time span. If more than 40 minutes passed after Kanon left Jessica's room for Rosa to come in, then it's fine, that would be cool. But if it's under 40 minutes, then it's no good. It is Zenden Dameda. Nonetheless, let's move on to the first Twilight. We talked and talked and talked about it several times. We went through red truths about the locked room murder and talked extensively about it. But there are a few things I want to discuss in regards to it. First off, the murder weapon. Where the fuck is it? Well, of course, the killer would conceal it. But I wonder what kind of weapon we are talking about here. The only thing I can think of is a knife, a kitchen knife of sorts, or a butcher knife, like if we're talking human tactics. If it's magic, well, we've seen that Kanon can activate a magical energy sword, so yeah, he could be seen as a suspect yet again in the first Twilight. His motivation will be, as I said before, to increase his chances of survival to get to see the Golden Land. But those chances dropped once Jessica was about to get killed by Beatrice. However, there is a problem. Deep down, he cared about Jessica. So, if he wanted to survive and wanted Jessica to survive as well, then he wouldn't have killed Eva and Hideyoshi, because they were a couple. Hell, he wouldn't have killed Rodolph and Kirie either, nor Krause and Natsu. They're all couples that would have fit perfectly for second Twilight. So, yeah, unless he was forced to do the first Twilight, whether we're talking about his energy sword or a normal knife, his motivation does not check out. What about Shannon? Maybe she can use an energy sword. However, I might need to add that if we go with the energy sword thing, then that counts as magic, so maybe that's a no-no. And to top it all off, there is something that I've read about Shannon in the tips that was added after I finished episode 2 that says that Shannon is more of a protective magical servant, that she uses barriers and such, so chances are that she's probably not versed with energy swords. I am complicating things. Maybe I should just stop and think a little easier this time for a couple of seconds. At the second tea party, when Rosa was about to get tortured by Beatrice, a trade of sorts was mentioned for her demands, and that Rosa deserved a reward for it. I mean, it can be possible that Beatrice was lying out of her ass, just so that later she can be all, psych, you're gonna get tortured, there is no reward for you. But nonetheless, it made me think back on when Beatrice gave Rosa that letter that she should have read at the dinner, and yet we found that letter unopened the next morning when we discovered the bodies. Something tells me that Rosa and Beatrice sort of cooperated, but Rosa in the end denied Beatrice and got punished. I mean, it could be the letter that she should have opened but did not. It could be that Rosa showed so much hatred towards Beatrice that the witch decided to torture her. Or it's because Rosa got greedy and tried to run away with the gold ingot. Like, either way, Rosa really seemed to be at the center of the second game. My theory? She killed the first 6 adults. The motive is crystal clear. She hated her siblings and wanted the gold for herself. It is easy to get a knife from the kitchen and cut them for the first twilight. The letter that was supposed to be read at the dinner was found by George at the table inside the chapel, which shows that Rosa indeed was there before discovering the murder. Which makes me think of the following. Rosa, alongside the rest of the adults, came to the chapel with Beatrice and discussed. They all pledged their belief in Beatrice, but Rosa was the only one who did not believe in her. However, maybe Rosa was chosen by Beatrice to kill the other adults with a knife. And, well, how could Rosa refuse that, since she hated 3 of them and did not care about the rest? So she did the deed. Beatrice is happy about that. Rosa goes back to bed, and she wakes up not remembering what happened. And when she finds the bodies in the morning, she's so shocked that she starts vomiting, finally realizing what she had done. Also, since it is possible that Rosa did the deed, of course Beatrice would help Rosa reseal the envelope since the key was needed to lock the room. After all, the only one who can seal those envelopes is Beatrice, with Kinzo's ring that he throws out the window. So, yeah. This is too easy. Too easy that I cannot help but think that she ain't the killer of the first Twilight. But she definitely had something to do with it. So, if she ain't the killer, and she was at the chapel last night, then she must know who the actual killer is. The thought of a person who has been seen as the most suspicious for murder, being in cahoots with the actual killer who is a total mystery, is a bit of a more complex idea that I can see happen. So it makes me question the following. Was there any weird exchange of words between Rosa and the rest of the humans that makes me think of them as a killer? Like anything suspicious? Well, no. The most notable thing that I can see is that Rosa was suspecting the servants a lot, because, well, they have the keys. But if one of the servants killed the first 6, it can be that Rosa, knowing that, focused on the servants being seen as the most suspicious by the rest, so that in the end, she can have all the master keys. So with that theory in mind, it is back to suspecting the servants, and it makes me wonder that even after the first Twilight, Rosa and the servant killer still cooperated. I mean, if we were to go back and look at the time when Rosa came to the parlor with a gun for the first time, she was with Shannon and Genji, who we know were with Kinzo at the time, writing his will. However, I do remember specifically that Rosa said that when she went there to his study, Kinzo was agitated by the certain events, which in my eyes, I doubt that Kinzo really was agitated. In fact, if I were Kinzo, my response would be, "Why the fuck should I care about the deaths of some vultures? Get on my strike!" Like, what do we know about Kinzo? It is that he does not care about his siblings. He only sees Natsuki as the one person he respects as a good Ushiromiya member. So, it is interesting that despite that, Kinzo would still allow Rosa to have his gun, if we are to believe that Rosa borrowed it from him. Though, if I am to think about it, I don't think that she borrowed. I think that she stole it in secret somehow. And maybe Shannon and Genji help with that. Actually, here's a nice possibility. Maybe Genji is the killer of the first Twilight. His motivation? Like, I'm thinking that the motivation is for him to reach the Golden Land. For the sweet release, maybe. Just like I thought of with Shannon and Kano. Suspicious? Well, he definitely seemed like his usual self, even though he announced Beatrice's entrance at the banquet in front of freaking witches and demons, so he definitely knows a lot more than any of the others. Is alliance with Beatrice possible? Yeah. I mean, Shannon and Kanon may have seen Beatrice as their enemy at the time, but maybe not Genji. Murder weapon? The kitchen knife. And to top it all off, he has access everywhere with his master key for a while. It's shaky, but it is possible. He very well can be the butler. Alright, one last thing I want to add regarding the first Twilight. The door to the chapel itself. Now my initial thought was, God, haven't we fucked that door enough? What more could there be? But I couldn't help but think of a weird possibility that popped up a while back while going through the second game. What if the door was never locked to begin with, and Rosa made it look like it was locked by going back to get the key and pretend to unlock the door in front of everyone? Now, I did check the red truths for the chapel locked room murder, and despite us talking about the door extensively, the red truths never really specified that the door was locked to begin with. And that we were chasing a problem that was never there to begin with, like we were a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, both me and Battler. Like, yeah, it says about how when the door is locked, it prevents any exits, or that it is impossible for the door to unlock without the chapel key, blah blah blah. But has Beatrice ever stated in red that the door was actually locked from the time of the murder till it was opened the next morning? No. She would pretend to be all shocked that Battler found a solution, when in fact, it was all useless. I mean, I did say before that there was something fishy about it, even if we won that round. But when you think about it, it's plain stupid. I mean, after all, didn't the servants check beforehand that the door is locked or not, before Rosa came? Well, that is what I was thinking, and I checked the conversation a little bit, so let's go back here and see. Rosa asked, "Did you check inside the chapel?" Kanon said, "No, not yet. We did try to check inside, but..." And then Genji continues with, "Actually, the lock to the chapel is special, so the master key does not work. There is a single key which can open it, but that key is missing from the key box." And then Rosa tried herself to go through the door. So, as far as I can see, like if we are to interpret this piece of conversation a little bit, Kanon says that they did not check inside the chapel, and he said that he did try to check by going to find the key, but Genji answers that the key is missing. So one could say that they didn't even try to see if the door is unlocked because, well, why would they when they know that they need the key first? So with that, Rosa could fool them to think that it was locked by trying the door. But why would Rosa rely on that beforehand? What difference does it make it seem that it is locked? Versus the servants discovering before that it is unlocked by checking the door before Rosa. What would happen if the servants checked? Would something fail? Like fail what? The entire mystery that Battler and Beatrice went through in Season 2 Episode 17? With the whole Red Truth introduction? Cause if the servants checked the door, it wouldn't have been unlocked through the murder mystery at that point, and we might have reached the whole key in envelope idea much faster. Is that what Rosa tried to prevent? Was it her going, "Wait a minute, these idiots did not check the door yet? What if I can make this a locked room murder by pretending that this is locked and making things more difficult? and then go after the key in the envelope that Maria was holding. That this was like a golden opportunity for Rosa that she didn't think she would have beforehand. However, that would imply that Rosa knew that the key was inside there all along, so how would she know that the key was there without opening it? Unless Beatrice told Rosa that night at the chapel when all the adults were there, including her. That, or if we were to combine with our previous idea that Beatrice waxed the envelope more than once, then Rosa could have had the chance to see the key that was there. Beatrice asks Rosa to bring the key from Maria's envelope that night. She got it, and they unlocked the door to the chapel. After all was said and done, Rosa went back to put the key inside Maria's envelope. Beatrice waxed the envelope, and the rest is history. Except that maybe the door was never locked afterwards. So yeah, I guess that is one possibility for it. If we are to solve a locked room murder, maybe the solution would be that the door was never locked to begin with. So yeah, that's an interesting possibility. But alright, let's check the profiles here a little bit. The profiles that we gained after finishing episode 2, shall we? Because there's a bunch of things here to see. Now, there are two categories: human side characters and witch side characters. On the human side, if we are to go back to the topic of Genji, there's not much to say about him on the human side. But on the witch side profile, it is said that he was Kinzo's earliest creation. However, he was made with the help of a very powerful demon, it seems. Whoever that is. So yeah, it is very well possible that he is all versed in what is going on with the demons and witches. Also, we have some extra goodies around here for us to read. Like the stakes, all 7 of them. They all share the same kind of description over here. That they're all created by Beatrice. They have free will to do whatever, but must always obey. They turn to stakes and fly at pipe speeds and leg thighs. Alright, it says that Lucifer is haughty and arrogant, but actually feels pleasure from submission. I mean, I guess that makes sense. We have Leviathan, nothing but a jealous crybaby. She'll do whatever it takes to get what she wants. Satan, she is really grumpy, but actually wants others to get angry with her. Belphegor is thoughtful and hardworking. Because of this, she corrupts her masters. Mammon is really greedy. Once she decides she wants something, she will sacrifice anything and everything to get it. Beelzebub is in fact a gourmet who would use any ingredients to make a good meal, even her own body. Ew. And Asmodeus, at that age where she wants a boyfriend, will give up her life for love. So yeah, I guess that's lovely. There are also a bunch of other things over here that we see. On the witch's side, we have Kenzo's profile over here, and it says that he is a self-taught human mage. His natural talent and level of knowledge are nothing special, but when his nearly insane powers of concentration and dedication were transformed into magical power, he awakened as a great mage. So yeah, I guess it is sort of like what Beatrice said. Naturally, he doesn't have like any magic powers, but he compensated that with his power concentration and dedication and using risk to do all of his magic stuff. His power is at least great enough that he was able to summon Beatrice and form a contract with her. Though his power is great, it is also extremely lopsided. In particular, he specialized in summoning and barriers, so perhaps this is fitting to call him a summoner instead. So yeah, I guess he isn't that much of an offense type guy. What with his lack of magic and such. Badler, on the witch's side, an unfortunate young man to whom Beatrice has taken a liking. A human who inherited the black blood from Kinzo. I wonder what the meaning behind black blood is in this case. Inherited the massive resistance to magical power that Kinzo was born with. Ironically, it was this trait that made it so hard for Kinzo to succeed as a mage. A massive magic defense can be an ace in the hole for a battle against a witch. Kinzo has begun to lose this power with age, but Battler's power is still on the rise. Perhaps it's understandable why Beatrice tried to crush it as soon as possible. And then we have Maria over here, a little mage who has inherited the black blood from Kinzo. Again, we are going with black blood over here. Unlike Kinzo, she was gifted with natural talent, and began to tread the path of the mage while still young. That said, her power is still weak, and she is no more than an apprentice. However, she is skilled with enchantments, which bestow magical power upon objects, and the magical items she creates compete with those of the Meister class. Okay. Also, there are a couple of things to note over here. Like, I am starting to suspect Genji a lot more lately of things that he knows that the others don't. Like I said, he must be well versed in demons and witches, and he definitely knows a lot more than he lets on. So, yeah, I wonder how much experience he has, or what connections he has with Beatrice and possibly other beings of magical nature. Like what I thought of last investigation with Nanjo, maybe secretly being Gap and such, given that I've read the Goetia and there was an entry there for Gap that said that they may disguise themselves as a doctor or something like that. So yeah, there's Nanjo, Genji, and for a while I've also been starting to suspect someone else that may be hiding something more that they're letting on. And that would be Kumasawa.
おいたはシアゴーダさん。私は物陰からこうして見守るしかないのでございます。テーブルクロスは大丈夫ですか？これは失礼を。
When it became her turn to beat the brunt, Kumasawa softly disappeared into the hole. Kumasawa does like to watch events from the shadows a lot, I've noticed. I mean, that sure is like Kumasawa. She is quite kooky and likes to gossip. As you may have noticed in the first and the second game, she definitely seems to be like a background type character, more like watching things from the shadows and such. I wonder if she knows something. I mean, she did prove herself to be very knowledgeable about the history of this island. She has been telling us about demons that may have occupied this island at some point in the past, and she even told Shannon about the spider web thing, that it will be a natural enemy to the butterfly, and with that being said, a natural enemy to Beatrice. So, it makes me question, what is Kumasawa's role in all this? How much does she know? Cause she definitely seems to believe in Beatrice, but from where? We have learned where Shannon learned about Beatrice, and Kanon as well, but what about Kumasawa? I mean, she definitely doesn't seem to have like any connection to Kinzo or Genji and all that. Genji definitely picked up on demons and Beatrice from Kinzo, but what about Kumasawa? What is her history with this island? What is her history with Beatrice and all that? Alright, time to move on to the next topic, which is Beatrice. More specifically, a real Beatrice and quote-unquote human Beatrice. It is at this point that I'm starting to question for the first time, what the hell is the distinction between the two? Why is it that in the second game we see Beatrice, but with switched clothes, suggesting that both of them had a hand in what happened? Well, maybe it is because they both really had a hand in what happened in this. Otherwise, it feels kind of redundant for Beatrice to keep changing her clothes all the time, for no reason. For example, we have Kanon talk to Beatrice in her high school girl outfit, and right after that, when Jessica is attacked, Beatrice is back to her elegant dress. Why? We've seen that both human and witch Beatrice have magical powers. So this makes me question, what is the pattern over here? Let's go over the second game one more time and summarize Beatrice's appearance at each eventful moment that happened on Rokenjima. I have it all listed over here. I'm not gonna read all this. You can read it for yourself. But yeah, I have listed Beatrice's appearances on the island. What can I get out of this? I mean, I got nothing. Both human Beatrice and witch Beatrice can perform magic. I mean, we see human Beatrice not only do the candy fix magic, but we see her flying above the table inside the chapel, in the center of the freaking whirlwind of butterflies, controlling and attacking Shannon, George, and Gora with them. The one difference I can see is that witch Beatrice shows up when there's something huge going on, like fighting Kanon in Jessica's room, or fighting Shannon in Natsu's room. But then you have witch Beatrice having a monologue in the rain at the end of the first day, or at the staircase when Rosa was going to the study, as if she's twirling a mustache that she has, and going "Bwahahaha" while no one is looking. I mean, maybe it once again relates to one's ability to see Beatrice? Like we talked about in the first game? For example, human Beatrice shows up for those that do not believe initially in the existence of the witch, but Shannon and Kanon have no problem seeing witch Beatrice. Therefore, she is the one that shows up to fight them? No, cause in that case we should have seen witch Beatrice talk to Kanon before Jessica got attacked, not human Beatrice. And let's say that human Beatrice had to show up inside the chapel to attack so that George and Gora can see her for the first time and finally believe that she exists. Then why not stay as human Beatrice when they all arrived at Natsu's room? I mean, it sounds like kind of a hassle at that point to just switch places or clothes. Is it a matter of style? Finish off your enemy in your most iconic outfit? I don't get it. I mean, it would make more sense if throughout the entirety of the events on Rokkenjima, we only see human Beatrice, while witch Beatrice is talking to me and Battler up there in the witch's world. But no, on Rokkenjima we see a mix between the two. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I haven't made much progress on the epitaph. I guess I went back to look at the old locations that I checked before starting the second game, followed a bunch of rivers here and there and such to see if I can find anything that I deemed useful. But I guess I'll have to try harder, hopefully during the third game. At best, the only thing I can say is that it very well can be that the gold is on Rokkenjima, if we are to try and solve the epitaph and find the gold afterwards to finish it. And well, since the typhoon keeps hitting Rokkenjima, it would be impossible to escape and find the gold outside. I mean, that's the reason why I'm thinking that it is on the island, if we also need to find it. That, or we would have to be so fast in solving the epitaph that we would have to escape the island on the first day before it starts raining. Like we arrive via boat on the island and be all, wait, hold on, everyone, we have to find the gold, go back, and try to find the gold that way. However, if we were able to do that, then the ritual would end up becoming useless. Everyone leaves and there is no murder on Kenjima, and I don't think Beatrice would allow for such a thing. Not to mention that there is a time limit. Like, the ritual will end on the second day, meaning that we have a maximum of 2 days to find the gold. And, well, I doubt that we would be able to do that if the gold is, say, in Egypt or something. So, either the gold is on the island, or, at worst, it is somewhere nearby, on a completely different island near Rokkenjima. And, well, I'm still gonna need to read a little more on the Goetia, but other than that, I guess it is time for me to say my thoughts about episode 2. In short, it was quite magical, in more ways than one. Like, one thing I'd like to mention is that, in comparison to the first game, we managed to see some of the humans fight back against the chaos. Kanon, Shannon, Rosa, and even Battler managed quite a nice comeback, like smashing Beatrice's face into the table. Like, that was freaking dope. So, yeah, I remember when I said that in the first game it turned into nothing but despairful moments after despairful moments. And I said that from there on, there needs to be a balance between hope and despair. Well, this second game turned out quite chaotic, like everyone dies, lots of tragically sad moments, but we've seen some fight back. We've seen some hopeful moments from some of the humans. And, well, I couldn't ask for a better ending for both the second game and the second tea party. Like, after all of that torture that after a while was starting to make me feel sick, like deep inside. I remained silent for a while because of it. And when Beller came in to save the day, man, it was like something exploded inside of me and I was like, yes! So yeah, I loved it. But you still have to deliver on your mysteries, Umineko. You better deliver it! Though, before I continue on that line of thought, I would like to mention something to those that have never read Umineko and this is your first time. I did mention before that there are a total of 8 main episodes to Umineko. And we finished the second one now. However, I think I forgot to mention that this entire story is split into sagas, I should say. The first one is the question arcs, which is made of the first 4 episodes. And the answer arcs, which is made of episodes 5 through 8. Which, by the way, hi Erica, I see you there. Still hiding somewhere, I bet. Anyway, based on these 2 names, I guess you can tell that the first saga is gonna be more on the asking questions about everything and trying to solve things. And at times we will get our answers. And in the answer arcs, things are gonna become clearer and clearer. That we will actually be able to solve things more clearly since by that point we will get familiarized with the chess games and all. Actually, I don't know if that is the right thing to say, like based on what people told me, so I'm gonna put it this way. For the question arcs, we have mysteries, and we, the readers, are put in the situation to try and solve this stuff by ourselves. Interpret things as much as possible. Think of as many possibilities as we can, while the characters are confused as heck about what is going on. In the answer arcs, the game starts to be all, hey dumbass, here's the answers you wanted plain as day. Let me spell it out to you like I'm talking to a baby. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but you get what I mean. It is when everything comes to a conclusion and everything gets wrapped up. Like in adventures, such as the Zero Escape games or the Somnium Files. Many questions, and things get solved by the end of it. It's not like I'm never gonna get the answers to my questions, right? Right? But yeah, with that being said, I have been told by a little birdie that in episode 3 we are gonna address the murders of both the first game and the second game in Red Truths. Like, we're gonna learn more details in Red Truths that will make us question the possibilities that we've made thus far, that we thought of thus far. And I'm like, yes, I just cannot wait. I cannot wait to address some of those murders that happened. Because in the second game, we didn't address a single thing about the first game, so yeah, that will be pretty exciting.